Deep
Sad.
inside.
Okay, my bad. We
Alright, I submitted
transitioned.
all the changes. I submitted all the.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Oh yeah. Hi. How's everyone doing tonight?
Yeah,
Oh.
good. Yeah, good evening,
Oh.
everyone else. Didn't know actually did not hit the transition button. Whoops. Anyways, good evening, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's having a nice evening tonight. We have a special guest tonight. Actually, hold on. When was the last time we had another person outside of four of us here?
Never.
No, there
Your
was
friend,
one.
Your other
Yeah.
friend, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the beginning.
talking
Towards the
about,
beginning.
mental health or something.
Something like that.
Trauma?
Yes. Yeah, something like that. But anyways, moving on. If anything, we are bringing on Matt over here because of a very particular topic. But first we do, for the audience, how are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
Now, today's topic, we're just going to talk about like personal finances. Again, these are conversations that me and Victor have had based on the shit that we've seen like on internet, either social media or articles. Now, if anything, Matt, would you like to give people like a short description of like what you do or something that you can give some insight into this?
One quick disclaimer.
Yeah.
None of us here are financial advisors.
So anyways, invest into this particular stock. I'm just kidding.
Carry
I'll
on,
just
Matt.
say that for my occupation, I work in marketing at a consumer electronics company. And I guess for finance, like, everyone has their different personal finances. So I'm no finance guru, but I say that working, a 9-to-5 job and then just taking care of expenses and stuff like that, and then learning through the ropes throughout these years will teach you, kind of responsibility wise. So it's nothing too special about my life per se, but some people out there, it's interesting that they don't have that financial education or they don't have the financial guidance. So I guess, for this podcast, we can just kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So anyways, this is all for tonight. I'm just kidding. but for all traditions too, because you're our new guest here too, I need you to give me your hot or trash takes about this subject. What is something
Like
that you've been what is something that you've been wanting to say? Yeah. Something of that or something else that kind of relates to that.
I would say it doesn't matter what job you have or what occupation it has. It doesn't mean shit. You can be
You're never gonna become rich.
You can be a doctor, a lawyer, or whoever the hell, right? But like, if you don't know how to spend your money wisely, you're just gonna end up like anyone else, So, like I said, it doesn't matter what job, occupation you have, how much money you have, and stuff like that. It's how you want to use your money and the goals that you want, right? Like, my goal and your goal won't be the same, so you can't kind of be like, oh, I make more money than this person, or my occupation's this and that. Like, it doesn't mean shit, because at the end of the day, everyone has different values and different lifestyles they want to achieve. So I guess that's my hot and trash take.
Yeah, that was something that me and Victor kind of went back and forth a little bit too, about like how a lot of people's like personal finances seem to be in shambles within context of like how a lot of news outlets are saying too that like millennials and like even like for some too, there's still a good majority of millennials that don't actually own a home to their name at all. And they probably won't be able to afford homes for the next like few years down the line or whenever possible.
Look, home is one thing. I mean, a lot of millennials and Zoomers don't even have enough money in their bank accounts.
So it's just... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Brian.
Okay. So it's just like one of the things too that there's a lot of like argument talking points too where like we hear like from at least like recently too that a lot of people kind of just want like higher wages so that one they can really like combat against like the increasing cost of housing and whatnot. But obviously it's like it's one thing to like if you increase wage, you hear arguments that it will just increase everything else. However, I don't even think that might even be the issue at all, even if we do increase wages. But that's a whole separate issue to talk about, which if anything, we're going to be talking about the smaller stuff, such as what people do with like money to like help boost their own income, whatever they have to, or just learning how to live like better in general. Such as like one of the things about too, like especially when we were going through the pandemic or COVID stuff too, and this is probably before then too. What is everyone's opinions about those financial or personal finance influencers that you see? Like in this case, fuck, what was the name of the one guy, Victor, whose name was Graham? I know it was just Graham, but I forgot the full title of
Graham
that.
Stephen?
Stephanakis or something.
Graham Stephen.
Yeah.
No, that's his
Something.
YouTube name.
Yeah. Like, if anything, what is your guys' opinions about like people like him?
May I go first for mine?
Sure.
Yes.
So, and I guess in 2020, that's when I started investing, right? Because I had I didn't know what to do with my money at the time,
Mhm.
and of course the stock market was kind of going down. So, when the first thing you do is like you go to Google, you go to YouTube, and he's on the top of like, let's say, top 5 video posts. And the one thing that I kind of did not, it rubbed me the wrong way when I saw his video was his thumbnail for his icon. He has this like fuckboy look, right? Like, I'll teach you how to make money, and it's like has like the bite lip, like the lip biting type. And then like
Mhm.
when he's talking about it, he's like, I made $1 million by blah blah blah, this and that, and you can too. And this, like, once they start talking about their own channel or their own like
Personal
I don't know,
successes.
Patreon, yeah, personal stuff, well, like their own personal channel that you subscribe to, that's when I'm like, okay, are you helping these people to, gain their personal finance? Because everyone wants to get rich, right? And then everyone doesn't have the time to wait and invest on something. For me, it's like, take it with a grain of salt. If you take everything seriously from this guy that you just watched on YouTube, right? You're just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like you can take his ideas and what's going on in the world, but at the end of the day, no one can predict the stock market. There's so many people that I watch that their thumbnail is like, oh, the economy is going down, this year is going to be a bear market, this year is going to
Yeah.
be a bull market. But I'm like, there's no way you can predict anything. By the time the news comes out already that the stock market is going bad, or this company is being liquidated, blah blah blah, the people who already knew, they already knew 2 weeks ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
And then you're trying to catch on this high, and it's already too late.
Yeah.
So during 2020, I feel like there was a lot of opportunity for these finance YouTubers to catch in on people who had excess money that they don't know how to spend on. Like, think of the whole entire like, not Bitcoin, but like crypto stuff, right? Everyone
Yeah.
was on that hype. Everyone was on the hype with GameStop. Everyone was on the hype of just
AMC and
Wall Street,
NFTs.
yeah, Wall Street bets, and for people who are investing in the stock market, there's no way you can make money that quick, right? Unless you're sitting there and you do a rug pull.
Yeah.
Right? You know what you're reading on the graphs and stuff like that.
Yeah. And depending on the look too, you could also get into a lot of legal troubles as well.
Yes.
But regardless of all that too, at least one of the things that I will have to say about it too is, like, for me, I just personally hate like personal finance like YouTubers or influencers that kind of show you that, because at the end of the day, like, if you go past like all of like their fluff messages that they have to, at the end of their videos, it's either two things. It's either they claim to say that we are not financial advisors, so always take our whatever we say with a grain of salt, which is also a little bit underhanded tactic, just because the fact that they give you all this shit, then they throw this out in the end just so that one, they could throw away like any responsibility they had when they're telling this to like mass amount of people. At least for me, that's how I feel like when I saw that. And the second part is, if they tell you about this stuff too, and there's like, oh, by the end of it, you can also learn how to make more money by paying, in this case, for my course that it's posted somewhere online, which honestly, if you look into those, it's just basic shit that they kind of show you.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
that's
just-
the thing. I feel like a lot of what they do is they're just trying to sell you on something. They're just trying to have you spend your money on them. Like, that's how they make their money.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing that we see like back on our previous topics when it came to like the food, like nutrition people or holistic science people that want to like say, oh, don't buy all these produce because it will give you X, Y, and Z's. Buy, in this case, my product here. that will do just that. And it's just like, this guy's fucking load of shit.
Truly.
Yeah. Anyways, that is pretty much my stance on that, really. But I do agree with you, Matt, that like a lot of people should really be taking a lot of these people that post these videos online with a grain of salt. But unfortunately, people don't really have that sensibility to begin with, and they just will do whatever it is to like get them the most amount of money. Sure, they'll probably do it for like if they're quick enough and they're reacting enough to the stock market. But like what you said, no one can really predict it unless you're actually doing insider trading, which is illegal.
Yeah, I mean, people still do that shit. It's illegal.
Yeah, they still illegal.
do it. But I was having dinner one day, and I was over, like, my waitress, she was, like, talking to the table next to us for, like, 10-15 minutes. And, you know, she's talking to these two customers next to us, being like, oh, yeah, it's hard being a waitress because after the pandemic, you know, wages have gone low, like... something like that. She was telling her like personal story to these people, and this guy is like, yeah, like, you know, me and my wife work from home and it's so easy, like you can help and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, my boyfriend was on TikTok, and then he was listening to this finance guru, and this finance guru was like, you can start up an LLC for $700 and blah 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 if you follow these instructions and stuff like that. And it turns out, you know, before she even completed the story, I'm like, that guy got probably ripped off. And then 2 minutes later, she's like, yeah, he got ripped off, and then he took my money, and, you know, I have to be stuck doing this. And in my mind, I'm like, are you dumb? Like,
But that's
you know?
I feel like that's who they're targeting, though, is the desperate people. The ones who aren't making a whole lot of money and, you know, would do anything to get out of the situation they're in. That's who they're targeting. I can't necessarily say someone's dumb because, like, I haven't been in a desperate situation like that, and I mean, like, I don't know how I'd be in a situation like that. I don't know.
I know what you mean, but like that was just my natural reaction, right? It's like when I see like something I can't process, sometimes I'm just like, are you dumb? You know,
Yeah,
it's like you should know better, right? But then there, like you said, there's some people that have desperate measures. They go to like loans, right? Loans that are not from the bank. Like people like, let's say this is a high case, is like the mob, right?
Jeez.
Or loan sharks. And then they get hunted down, you know, in a more serious matter that you can't go to legal because they're like, well, why'd you go to the mob or why'd you go to a loan shark and stuff like that. So I know what you mean. It's like desperate people will go to this thing, but you should kind of know better. For me, it's like common sense, right? Like if you're on TikTok, why would you believe something like that? But then again, going to Michael's thing is that, you know, people can be that desperate to the point where
they'll listen to anybody.
I think realistically, like, there are not, like, people do stupid things, but I think truly stupid people are like kind of rarer. I think just what you catch in reality is a lot of desperate people.
Yeah, because like imagine like what happened to like those said people that have invested heavily into like the crypto market. Like, I'll be honest too, they're probably doing it by the same logic too, that like they know that at least at some point in the future we're going to be using crypto one way or the other. But unfortunately, due to how volatile the market is, and in this case what we saw recently, it got overinflated for or overvalued for what it was worth, and then everybody just lost a fuck ton of money, in this case FTX XD. But besides the point too, some of the things that me and Victor have talked about before too, is in this case having the person be able to be like financially educated on that. And is there a way to really like teach that? Because I in this case said too that like maybe public schools could really teach that, but then I also agree with what Victor said earlier, where it's something that like personal finance educate or personal or financial education shouldn't really be taught in more like a school or whatnot. But it's something that you have to seek out yourselves, and it's something that like you have to be more open-minded about, like your own like position in life. Such as like one of the things that really got me thinking about it was in this case Robert Kiyosaki. In this case, his book of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
There's a meme of that. I have to show you. It's like one person reads that book and then he's like, "Whoa, bro, you don't have your assets, you don't have these investments and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that."
But it's like the book itself actually has a much more meaningful message than just like how this person was able to make money quickly. There's like more
Yeah.
to the book than like a
Yeah,
lot
I
of people
read
are
it.
like over like in this case it seems like everybody else is overlooking the actual message that Robert has. Although nowadays I kind of think not that positively about him as of lately, just because he was like doom talking a lot of times about the recession, like for like a good on year.
What do you mean?
Like holy, like there were so many
Beyond here,
videos.
bro. He always talks about it.
Oh, he always talks about. Never mind it. So with that book of Robert Kiyosaki, it just really is mostly it feels like you're listening to his life story about like how he made like the money that he did by in this case observing in this case what it means for personal finances for someone that has like a really high degree, like let's say being a doctor, versus someone that had no degree but then became like owners of like a multi-franchise.
Well, he was talking about in Hawaii where he his rich dad, right, was a teacher, and then his poor dad, I guess, was a owner of like a pineapple farm or some kind of farm in Hawaii.
And
Mhm.
the poor dad was the teacher. The rich dad
Oh,
owned a
sorry,
company of some
sorry.
sort.
Yeah, sorry. But in a way, that's where I guess what I learned from that book was just like, you know, even if you're a C student in a way, you kind of hire the A students to kind of do the work for you. Like, you didn't have to work as hard, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I guess that was my takeaway from the book. But the funny
Yeah.
part about him is that everyone says, okay, read that book. 20 million copies sold, etc., etc. But later on, did you know his like he filed for bankruptcy?
Oh, I think that was how long ago was that though? Because I remember I heard it too, but I can't remember.
It was a while ago. It was like in 2012. But
Oh,
that's the
shit.
thing. It's like you have these people like telling you like this is how you should spend money, this is how you should save money and stuff like that. But then you go bankrupt yourself. So it's like, what does that tell you about you educating these people about finances?
Mm. But yeah, in
I mean,
your
the problem is,
opinion,
Robert
go ahead.
Robert Kiyosaki was more like teaching the basic stuff, unless you buy his course. There's the other thing.
Yeah.
He sells courses, and I think people stop buying the courses. But either way, his book mainly described about the mindset of spending money. It's not about like this is how you should spend money or anything. It's just about the being in the correct mindset to use money and make money and all that such.
And like really when it really boiled down to that as well too, it's just like, so if anything, if these books were probably, or like if there was like actual like public faculties or public education system that would teach like newer generations about personal finance, would it actually be making smarter like consumers or smarter people to manage their own money? But even then, Victor does have a point as well, as like it's not really up to the school to
I mean,
really
it's not-
educate them.
It's not that it's not that it's not up to the school. It's
Mhm.
just that what is I mean, I'm heavily assuming that finance would be a like an elective or just those one semester courses at school.
Yeah.
That's not going to teach you anything.
Mm-hmm. Just
And
because like
if you don't continue learning after that, you're just going to forget it like every other subject in school.
yeah, that is something that like it has like stuck with me, just because like fuck, how do we teach people, or how do we get people to be more like financially educated about all this shit? Because at this point right now, it's more like people have to like fuck up in their lives in order to learn. But honestly, that's like some of the biggest takeaways, that failure is the best teacher based on
Yeah.
like how people like actually live.
Well, I agree on that. And it's also you have no it's like your personal finances, it dictates on what do you prioritize, right? Let's
Mhm.
say if you're working a job and then you live in a single bedroom apartment and you only make X amount of money and you can't spend anything else, right? But you want this one item. So I don't know if it's from that book that taught me, but I always believe in like, you know, you want something, right? No
Right.
matter what, I feel like any person can achieve of getting it is just how do I get it? You know, how do I find the way to get it and stuff like that? Whether it's cutting down on cost of X, Y, and Z, and then you saving up to get that item you want. But anything in life you want and how badly you would get it, I always believe that you will get it some way, right? But you just have
Right.
to find a way to kind of save that money or find the resources to achieve it.
Ah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I actually want to ask you, Matt, too. Like, there's also like a couple like videos that were based off of like these financial influencers too. How do you feel about, like, in this case, a lot of their statements too, that like if you manage to cut like drinking coffee or Starbucks coffee, which costs like average for person like $5 a cup to, and they buy it every day. Someone has said too that like if you were to take all the purchase that you had for making coffee and then put it into a Roth IRA too, you can make a 5% or even like 10% return.
But for how long? You
Yeah.
know, like that's the funny part, right? Like, yeah, like cutting out coffee, it's just you have to be so disciplined, you know? Like once you're in this ingrained of this lifestyle that you have, right? Let's say like you work this 9 to 5, but then you drink coffee all the time, but one day you get laid off, and then you have to go downgrade to this job that, you know, is not as luxury as like your 9 to 5. You have to cut in that, but some people don't have the discipline, be like, okay, I don't have the money to do that anymore, right?
Yeah.
But they still spend it. So for me, it's like, if you can cut it off, like Starbucks for real, then good for you. Put that in Roth IRA. But then it's like, what are you trying to achieve out of the Roth IRA? You know, how long are you want to spend it? What stocks do you want to put in? What is it? Are they ETFs? Like, what are
Something
you
like
trying
that.
to put in
ETFs.
it? Yeah, what are you trying to put in there, right? Like,
But either way,
yeah.
like even I think the stocks doesn't matter. It's just on average 5 to 10% is what everyone says. But either way, cutting back on coffee and then putting in a Roth IRA, 5 to 10% per year, you have to wait like probably 40 plus years for it to be significant. So are you gonna wait 40 plus years in order to possibly get like a decent amount of money to use? I don't know.
I would
Yeah.
just hold on to it. I wouldn't.
It doesn't
put
make
it,
it
it's
doesn't
not
make
enough
it doesn't make
to
sense.
put it into
You
it.
know, it doesn't make sense if you just put it in that perspective. I mean, like this, you need a lot of time before any money in stocks
Yeah.
will make it.
And that's
Like,
the funny part is these gurus, you know, they probably have the money to do it regardless, right? They have pocket
yeah.
change to do it.
Mhm.
And when we're talking about personal finance in this topic, you know, this is personal. The word personal is bold, right? It's your money. What do you want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years, right? You have to have that
Mhm.
kind of game plan. If you want to buy a
Mhm.
house, you have kids, you want to take them to college and stuff like that. It's you have that chunk of change that on a rainy day, like you need surgery, you have it, right? And I don't think a lot of people think of that. They think, okay, get the paycheck, blow it away, right? They think about fun, fun, fun all the time. But once, I think this is the worst part, right? Once you get older, you don't realize the health issues that come with you being older. And
Yeah.
that's where you have to kind of have that money saved up to be like, okay, if I, you know, got sick with blah, 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 how much money do I have saved up still so I can be covered for that and still spend it on my kids and stuff? And not many people think about that. They only think short term.
Yeah.
So, and another
Always.
thing about personal finances, if people teach you all this stuff and you get more educated, there's not going to be people, you're not going to be more susceptible to be kind of like fooled. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's how these people are making money, by people who are like, okay, I want to get rich quick. So they put the money in, the people are like, oh, okay, it's like, it's a whole Ponzi scheme.
Mhm.
And
Or multi-level
can-
marketing.
yeah, and it's sad to see that these people want a comfortable life for themselves or their families, but then people take it the kindness of others or the gullibleness of others. Like,
Mhm.
it's like the hunter hunting their prey, you know?
Yeah, it was like that too, that we see it too, or that we see, like in this case, people can do their best to still be financially educated, but the human person is like still gullible to all this because we're only human as well. And also to relate back to the point too, where like sometimes a lot of us do, we really don't actually have enough money saved up, like emergency fund, as I would like to call it. Like we don't have any of that stored up too, just because like what you said too, a lot of us don't really see the long-term effects because based on what I've seen so far, we suck at actually looking things in a long-term perspective. Like that
But,
is honestly like
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Like it's
In a
hard for a lot
way,
of people.
I get that, but it's like I said, it's personal, right? So for me
Mhm.
personally, the one thing I always think of in the future is, when you see your parents, you see grandparents and stuff like that, they have to pay for medical bills, they have to pay for medication, surgeries
Mhm.
and stuff like that. It's like you need that for a rainy day. And
Right.
investing in yourself right now, being healthy, eating a healthier diet, or just, sustaining that lifestyle, for me, it's like right now it sounds expensive, right?
Yeah.
Buying a little bit more expensive produce and just eating cleaner, etc., etc. But it will be way better down the road when you have less risk of a health problem that you have to pay all this medical expenses to.
Mhm.
So I get when people are like, they can't think that far, but it's like you kind of have a grasp idea of anything could happen on a rainy day. Like life can come at you with a curveball,
Yeah.
right? But at least you have a peace of mind where it's like, okay, I will have a small cushion.
Mhm. Yeah, because like a lot of my ideas or my concepts or ideas ideas again with how like I'm thinking about all this stuff too is like I do look at other YouTube channels that actually kind of point out the falseness in a lot of these financial gurus and sort of less kind of explains a little bit more in depth how like money works. And if anything, that is the actual channel that I'm getting all this stuff from, how money works.
Mm.
There it's mostly because like first of all it's kind of really short form too, so I'm not watching like a whole 30-minute of his coverage. There are people that do that as well, and they're also better financially qualified to make these advices, but they never say or they never give out advices in the first place, just because of the fact that how much it would actually damage, like in this case, their credibility if someone like or a mass amount of people just end up losing their money based off what they said. So any real financial experts too would not actually give you any financial advice at all, just because at least the way how it is too, unless you're paying him, sure. But if it's like in a free like market platform or free public platform like YouTube, for example, they shouldn't be making any like advices in the broad sweep of things.
Yeah, and I'll go to that too. It's like think of banks and then investment brokers, right? So let's go with the banks first. With banks, imagine if you were financially educated and they're like, hey, sign up for this credit card with all this points, blah blah blah, and stuff like that, and I'll give you $5,000 line of credit. And you're like, no thanks. You're young, you don't have that money yet, right? To spend and cover it. Imagine if you were financially educated like that. But then banks love people who don't have any financial education. They're like, here you go. Here's this credit card. Go spend it however you want, and then acquire this debt, and then pay us an interest rate. And you're locked in for them. Um, and another thing about investment brokers is, let's say you don't know investments, right? And then you hire an investment broker, and they're gonna tell you all this. Oh, this stock is hot right now. You gotta invest in this. Oh, this stock is, you don't want this. Sell it off and stuff like that. They get a
Mhm.
pay of the cut, you know. So it's just like you scratch my back, and I'll scratch your back in a way. But they want the piece of the pie from your money as well. I mean, the world's greedy, man. Like
Yeah.
the whole the whole personal finance thing. It's like I said, whatever you want to achieve in your life and whatever you value in your life, find a goal and set that. And if you want this lifestyle of like, I want to get a house here in this city or this state, well, find a way to get it. If your job is not doing it right now, um, find another job that can sustain it and then save up or just be strategic about it. But I just don't. I guess for me, it's like personally seeing what happened, like my upbringing and how my family dealt with finances, and then me going to college dealing with like, okay, I used to have a monthly allowance, right? And then one day my
Right.
dad was like, I'm not giving you a monthly allowance anymore. And like literally, I was like a brat. I was like, what do you mean you didn't give me a month? Like, I'm not gonna get a monthly allowance. He's like, go find a job. I'm like, but I'm a student. Like, I'm a student, and I can't do a job and then what you call it, go to school. And it turns out I had 2 jobs in college, and I still I still went to school. And I kind of strategically go like, okay, if I go work at these 2 restaurants, right, I get to eat for free.
Mhm.
What do I spend mostly my money on if I get a paycheck? I spend it on food. So to mitigate the costs of me spending money on food, I work at restaurants where I eat for free. I save a little bit of money there. I lived in a dining room at the apartment, with you
Yeah.
and Loy and stuff like that. I paid less rent. I sacrificed my privacy just to save a little bit of money. So it's just like, but then with that money I saved up, it's like I can spend it on items that I want or places I want to go. So it's for people, it's like, think of what
Yeah.
you want and how you have to make sacrifices sometimes, right? And not
Yeah.
many people want to make that sacrifice.
Yeah. So it's like, so really the whole thing too is like, it's like you had to be comfortable with yourself, like making like the sacrifice needed based on the goals that you yourself has set up. Like in some things too, you can't also be like basing all of your successes based off of what everyone else tells you, like that kind of shit, right?
I would say like everyone's successes is different, right?
Mm.
But even me today, it's like I still work at 9 to 5, but I still have this consciousness in the back of my mind when I make a purchase like more than like $50. I was like, oh my god, that was so much. Like,
Yeah.
I feel guilty, right? Because when you see like, for my parents, like, we're immigrants, we come here, and sometimes like I like to wine and dine myself, right? And then I like
Mhm.
buying nice things. But then when I look back at it, I'm like, oh shit, like back then I didn't have that, and
Mhm.
it was nice to finally get that money to like buy something and you can afford it, right? Like,
Right.
I forgot, someone told me it's like the only way I know I can afford something if I can buy it twice and be comfortable, right? But even
Ooh,
then,
that's a
like,
good
I still
advice.
have this, yeah, I still have this guilt in the back of my mind where I'm like, oh man, like, I need to save for this, I need to save for a rainy day. But
Mhm.
then it goes into when you're too frugal, right? When you're too frugal, it's like, well, why did you work all that, all those hours and stuff like that, but then you don't spend any of it, you just keep it, and you can go any day, right, out of this earth, and that money will still be here. You can't take it with you to the grave. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like a balance of like, you work hard, you play hard, but then don't, play too hard, right?
Mm.
You
Yeah,
don't play
because
too hard or don't stay at home too hard.
Yeah.
yeah. Because like that is something that like a lot of people take too. And this is also going back to like if you save money by not buying coffee every day as well. One of the things that someone did point it out too is like, sure, you could definitely do that, but in this case, some of the more realistic factor about this too is like what Victor said. It's gonna take a long time for you to actually see those results. And if anything, that the problem that I remember too, and someone actually like How Money Works did say this as well. Not spending it every day or spending $5 on coffee every day used to be good advice. But nowadays it's like it won't matter anyways, just because based on what I've seen or heard about it too, everything is already outpacing how much money you can save up to begin with. So it's like a lot of times that we can tell to like it's still good to save up money still in the end, but in most cases too, people are like having like existential crisis because like they're trying their best to save as much money as they can, so just like self-sacrifice all the things that they enjoy in life just so that they can have enough money to pay like their next mortgage, their next hospital bill, or their next student loans. And it's just like, oh my god, everything else is getting around me getting more expensive, like food, groceries, even like basic necessities is getting even more expensive now. And so a lot of people start feeling like shit, no matter what we do to save up money, it just doesn't matter in the end. I don't know. How does
Yeah.
everybody feel about that?
I know what you mean by that. It's like it's the times, right? So we're talking about inflation, right?
Yeah.
When you're saying like everything's going up. So, um, I watched this commercial kind of like taught me to start investing in a way. It was a Thai commercial, and it's the premise is this little boy walks by the store and he sees a telescope, and the telescope costs, let's say, $100, right?
Yeah.
And every day he's walking by that telescope and he's saving money, and like he's penny pinching everything he can. He doesn't eat snacks, he doesn't go out to eat, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And then finally, at the end of the commercial, he finally has that $100 saved up, and he goes to the store, and the store owner changes the price from $100 of that telescope to $200 because of inflation. And
Mhm.
so it was a bank commercial, and they were like saying, okay, you should invest today. And that's kind of true though. If you have money that it's in your bank account, your checking account, and you don't do anything with it, it's just collecting dust, right? It's collecting cobwebs. It's not going up or down. But if you invest it into good companies, I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. If you invest in good companies or companies that could last last in these turmoils like COVID or any like recessions and stuff like that, your money will be cycling to you. One day it'll go down, one day it'll go up, but regardless, your money's moving. It's not collecting cobwebs. And not many people can do that because they need the money right away, right? They live paycheck to paycheck, or they just don't have extra money to invest in. And this investment is something that you should strategize how long term, how long do I want to keep this money and then pull out, or, for a certain type of situation. Or if, let's say, one of your stocks that you bought at $40 went up to $100, you sell it out, right? Buy more stocks, make more money. You didn't use your money, your own personal money that you initially invested in. You used the money that you gained to invest into new stocks, and then that's how you kind of incorporate more money into your brokerage account. But it's such, I don't know, it's a gamble, right? It's like more legal gambling and more acceptable gambling, I would say, for that.
Depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why again too. Sorry about that, Victor. Go ahead.
The gambling is like, I don't know. I see the gambling as more trading rather than investing, because with investing, you're actually, I guess, taking part ownership of the company. So you want the company to do well. You believe in the company and things like that. That's why you invest. You hold it for long term.
Yeah, but for me, the gambling part, it's like you gamble on investing in that company, right? So let's say people
in the end,
yeah,
it is a risk. I guess that's the best way to say it. It is a risk. Everything you do will be a risk.
Just because
it's a risk where when if the company that you believe was good for a time being, and then suddenly leadership changes and they drive the company to the ground, like you can't predict that. So investing is a risk. Anything you do with your money will be a risk, which is probably why a lot of people won't do it. Now, that's probably another point that we need to bring up.
Yeah, it's just the fact that a lot of people too are very risk adverse. Like they would do everything they could to try to make as much money as they can without feeling like they're doing something risky, even though that itself is a fallacy. Because like what you said earlier, Victor, everything is gonna have its own inherent risk. It's just the fact that people will perceive risk differently, and sometimes they're really bad at gauging how risky things are. Like for example, the crypto market. A lot of people thinking that it would have been a safe bet, or in this case, just because they were told too that this is what the future will be using is crypto. I'm like, true on paper, but
those people were brainwashed for sure.
Yeah, they were definitely brainwashed. But in this case, what are some really good examples? Actually, real estate might be a good example for that. People in this case, they know that if anything, people think that real estate is probably safer to put your money into, which in most arguments it can be, but that's still again dependent on if there are people out there that are still buying houses.
Here's the thing: real estate is safe until the economy goes down. That's it. Until the housing market goes down, really.
Yeah.
So, in general, it is safe. But whenever the housing market goes down, then you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
But that's only if you don't have a good system with your houses and all your real estate and rental properties and stuff.
Yeah.
because
So
there are plenty of people who own like rental houses and stuff that were able to
Mhm.
weather like all these housing market downturns.
Mhm.
So it just really depends. If you're just going into it blindly without understanding what you're doing, of course you're gonna lose everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so like again, we'll probably circle back to this again too. How people in this case like feel or how they define like things that are risky options to take too. Nobody actually knows. That's the actual thing that really people actually do need to realize as well. Nothing you do is ever guaranteed, nor is everything actually well understood. The only thing that
But
is yeah, sorry.
here's the weird thing. Here's the weird thing. People are risk adverse, yet people gamble. That perplexes me.
Oh yeah.
Gambling is literally a game of chance,
Yeah.
which is nothing but risk. Taking risk. Yeah, you risk your money in order to potentially make more money, like at a casino or something.
Mhm.
You know, or people in trading stocks and crypto and things like that. People are more willing to do that, even though it is the riskiest thing you can do. So
Yeah.
it's weird. So they're risk adverse, but when they're desperate, or when it's not okay, well maybe not. It's not that they're desperate. It's just either they won't take risks or they take on too much risk.
Hmm.
Like
That
I
really
think for
perplexes
the
me.
casino part is because people, it's easier, right, to go in and it's like all these lights, sounds, and smells and stuff like that. You get the excitement of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna throw my money in here, and if I win big, and everyone's cheering for you. But like, you invest into stocks, you're just sitting at your chair, you're like, oh, okay, I just bought some stocks. Now what? You don't get that instant gratification. And I guess that's
Yes,
where
that is also another
people,
problem.
yeah, that's where
That's
people
indeed
are
the
like,
other
I
problem.
need it, and they check their stock account or like brokerage account every day. They're like, oh my god, I lost $50 today. Sell, right? It's just like
yeah.
you have to be comfortable knowing that your money is moving up and down all the time,
Mhm.
right? And for
So if
me, it's like,
anything, oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
like you like if you don't take risks, like for me, it's like I don't like people who don't take risks because it's like you never tried, right? But you want this
Mhm.
thing. But it's like you have to know that taking a risk is better than not in 10 years being like, what if I did that? And you regret it. You know what I mean?
But do you agree at least that there should at least be like somewhat of a semblance of balance where like not everything that you do you should like pour all of your money into stock markets, like that kind of shit.
No, you shouldn't put your eggs in one basket, right? You should have investments on other things. But now that's the thing is this guy
What the
pissing?
Whoa.
Bro, mute your
Is this
Boy,
mic,
guy
man.
mute yourself.
pissing? He's like personal
There you go.
finance. I'm gonna
I
fucking
got him.
piss.
I got him.
Anyway,
Oh man.
and he
He'll
lost my
message
train
us.
of thought.
Yeah, he'll message us when he gets back. But
This guy.
but you were mentioning about like having your investments in other
Oh yes,
places.
yes, in other places and stuff like that. Now, the thing about us, right? It's the capital. How much capital do we have to invest in different parts, right?
Mhm.
If we want to go to real estate, if we want to start our own business and stuff like that, unless we didn't have wealth that was carried over and we have to start from the bottom up, it's hard, right? So what
Right.
do? You take
Very.
loans, and that is a huge risk of taking loans. And then it depends
I
on,
agree.
okay, if the bank's like, this is how much interest rate we're going to charge you, or what is your credibility of us giving you, let's say, a $30,000 loan for you to do your business. So right now, when everyone's worried about there's a recession, the banks with the financing rates, they're not going to give you a fucking loan because it's huge risk on them. So it's all about momentum and timing too, right? Like one man's trash is another man's treasure. So whenever someone falls in this economy, another person comes in and swoops up the garbage and, rearranges and gets something else. So it's also about strategically timing of who's failing. I guess, business is a part of war, I would say. Everyone is competing with each other, right? So um that's the tough part. And if you want to do business or anything, it's just like, how do you want to, like, me going back to that topic, I'm saying, like, how are you gonna get it, right?
Mhm.
And it's a lot of self-sacrifice.
Yeah. And some of the things that is noticeable too is like, do you also believe too that like a lot of people's personal like finance issues could also be derived from like people's lifestyle choices?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. It's FOMO. Like, a big thing is FOMO,
Mm-hmm.
Oh
because
yeah, 100%.
a lot of these things, it's like, what I notice, sometimes it's like people cannot be happy for what you have or what you do sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone else's financial situation is different, right? And I
Right.
always get a lot of people, like, hear a lot of these things of like, oh, that person went on vacation here. Oh, that person bought this new item stuff. Why can't I have it? And they think that, because they see that other person happy, they think, okay, if I buy it or if I go to that place, I will be happy. But everyone has a different mindset of what makes them happy, right?
Right.
And that's where FOMO gets into the part where it's like, I'm gonna go on vacation with this group of friends, and I make this X amount of money that I know I can afford it. But for the people who can't afford it, they want to keep up with their friends, right? They want to put this image of like, oh, I can hang. And then they go out and they spend money, and then they look back, they're like, oh fuck, this is more than I could chew, and I don't have money for it. What do I do? Right? And it goes into this thing where it's like they trying to keep up with the Joneses, And it's such a cancerous thing that people need to get out of their mind, is your time will come when you're having fun, right? Like, I always tell people this, like, when you're working at your office job and you're on Instagram, you're seeing your friends out on vacation and stuff, like, you're like, man, I'm in my office chair right now doing this, and they're out, at the beach or something. Well, one day they're going to be in their office chair while you're having fun at the beach, and they're going to be wondering that. So you shouldn't have so much FOMO to think that I have to do every single event. Your time will come, but right now, be serious about what you have and how much you can spend. Because if you already have all your priorities in check, that you paid rent, you paid your car, you paid insurance, etc., all the things that are necessities, and then you have change over, to have fun, then by all means. But if you don't have that, then don't. Your friends will respect you more, or people will respect you more, that you swallow your pride and be like, I can't afford this right now. I have to focus on my priorities. That's better than going out and spending X amount of money, you're looking like a fool, and then you can't pay it back. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, you're
Yeah.
digging yourself a bigger trench.
Yeah, and this is something that's honestly really interesting too, about like how people do have FOMO, and then there's a reaction to another group of people that are going against the trend, such as the rise of minimalism. Like, everyone here is all like, in this case, the Netflix special of like Marie Kondo, right? About like how to be more happier with you have by also just having less.
No.
So
I know who you're talking about. I don't watch the show, but I know who you're talking about. Even she
Yeah,
said she
I
got
know.
fucking bored about the minimalism part.
Yeah.
but
I mean, it's true. Like we can't just have nothing, or at least have like a bare minimum of things.
yeah,
We do have other things that we enjoy, that we want to have, and that we want to have as well. I don't know, man.
mhm.
Like, this whole minimalism stuff is very odd.
Yeah, it at some point it sounds good in practice, but in actuality, a lot of people can't really function in that way. Just because like it's not the fact that like people need to have stuff going for them, but it's like a lot of people start to figure out like, I think the only good message that I feel like looking at Marie Kondo's like actual way, like what brings you happiness and whatnot too, I feel like that's still a good message nonetheless.
Yeah, the message is good, but at the same time, it's also, I think the other message is not having more than what you want,
Mm-hmm.
not having
This-
more than what you need. I mean, sorry.
Yeah. And it's like, again, just being comfortable with like what you currently do have. That also doesn't mean that you don't have to, you should stop buying more or start giving away more. Just again, I think it's like a really good exercise for me too. Sometimes, or like, I kind of just look around what I currently have and I think to myself, like, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. And even though like, I'm still going to be saving up money to at some point be moving out on my own for sure. But really, dude, like I need to be better on my mindset, such as the fact that once that does happen too, this will translate more to the future. And
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
continue. No, continue.
Okay. But if anything, to like the idea for like minimalism is always such a strange thing. Just because, again, I see the reason why people do this as well too, and I think it's sort of less a really interesting exercise that you do to yourself. Just because you can see like one immediate like exchange of like how your money is being handled, just because now you have like a big spike in savings or capital to yourself. But also B, you also start to figure out like what truly matters to you. Such as the fact that people that do have FOMO, I actually want to see them actually live a minimalism lifestyle. Just to really see like how that changes and alters them.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I just don't understand FOMO, right? Like it's like why do you need to be there all the time about it? Or it's just like why do you need to compare yourself to others on how they live? It's like not your style.
So maybe hold on. Maybe these people just don't know what they want, and that's why they just follow the trend.
Yeah. Okay. I will at least say this too. This is sort of less like I don't know if I did have FOMO, but I know I did have like some semblance where like I felt guilty where like I wasn't able to like go hang out with friends too. That for me, like I was trying my best to be responsible, but obviously like I did want to go, but I like force myself to hold back on it. But really when I start to realize of like why do I feel like this at all too, and it's really for my own self-validation, knowing that I know I could go out with them and knowing that I have the means to do this. And so for me, that's where my FOMO kind of stems from, is the fact that it was all of it was for my own self-validation of being able to just go with you guys based on like when you guys ask. Sort of less like not having any worries or fears about that too. Nothing of like that hitting me on a personal note. But really, I think for a lot of people with FOMO, it is just about like either acceptance or self-validation, I feel like. I could be entirely wrong, as it could also be a lot of other things too. Like, let's take, for example, for like people living in Los Angeles, California, people do have FOMO just because they want to get that clout. And they do like, whatever they can.
Yeah, I feel like FOMO is like really one of the most awful way to get you broke.
Oh yes, definitely.
I agree.
I
mean, FOMO is what makes FOMO just makes people broke.
Especially you're lying of this lifestyle that, you know, on Instagram or whatever social media, you're like, oh yes, I'm living this lifestyle. People are like, oh my god, you went on this trip, you have this, but deep down, behind that camera, behind that phone, you know, you can't keep up. Like one day the light will shine on you to expose you, because it's just not, it's not sustainable.
Nor is it actually good for you mentally.
No, because you can never be happy with yourself or with people and all, and then you have to keep up appearances all the time. And it's like, let's say you don't have a girlfriend, and then you're trying to, you know, let's go back to personal finance, right? Like you want a girlfriend. A girlfriend is expensive. A significant other is expensive.
Yes,
I
it is.
agree.
Right?
I agree.
And so
Yep.
you, in the first few dates, you're like, I'm gonna take you here, I'm gonna take you there, and stuff like that. And then if you can't keep up, you know, it's like they finally see you for who you are. Like later on, the surface level stuff will subside, and they'll see the real you, and they're like, wait, you were lying to me all along, you're a fraud all along. Stuff like that. It's like, you know, some girls will accept you for who you are. Some girls, some guys, you know, they won't accept you for who you are. And it's like it goes to that part where it's just like, please, like, yeah, be yourself, but in a way, like, be responsible of like, not, you don't have to impress people all the time, you know?
Yeah.
I agree.
And really, for that too, I think, again, probably for some of the people in relationships that probably don't have to deal with all that issues about like trying to live up appearances, good for you. But then also, this can be like said too that like this is like very stressful to people depending on like if they live in different areas of the country as well. Like I know at least in Asia too, having materialistic lifestyle is something that they care more about, even within like interpersonal family relationships. Based on like
It's
what we
awkward.
heard. Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you one thing, like my coworkers, they are like very, you know, traditional Asian people and
Mm.
stuff like that, right? And I bring snacks all the time to the office. Like every month, I always stock up on snacks and bring stuff, right? And out of my own money, like no one reimbursed me or anything like that. And one day, my manager was like, "Hey, you know, I feel bad that we keep eating your snacks." I'm like, "Why are you feeling bad? It's, you know, it's for you." And then another coworker told my manager like, "Oh, you shouldn't feel bad for him because of the, you know, the stuff that he wears." And in my mind, I was like, "What the fuck?"
That was a
Like,
sort of backhanded compliment right there.
Uncalled for. That was
in my
uncalled
mind,
for.
in my mind, I was just like, just because someone looks a certain way, or even if they have money, right? It doesn't mean you should be like, "Oh, okay, it doesn't matter if he spent that money because he can afford it." You know, it's the principle of things, right? And even like one of my best friends, he's way off more wealthy than me, but I never treated him lesser or, you know, or better, or like trying to take advantage of his kindness, because that's his money, right? But a lot of people see if you have money, they think, "Oh, okay, he can afford it. It doesn't matter. I can drink his stuff and he can just buy another one," you know? But it's the principle of it, right?
Mhm.
And that goes back into like the whole family dynamic, Asian culture dynamic as well. It's just like, I do not like that whole materialistic, like how much money do you make, how much, you know, investment property you own. But that's, I guess, the mindset of the East. I don't know if it's the West as well. But to me, it's just like, why does that matter, right? One day I can be rich, and then one day I can be broke. You know, you don't know what's gonna go on.
That only
Right.
matters because your parents want bragging rights.
You know, in a way too, like. And I also I had this girl, I remember like way back when we were talking, we were like having car talk, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, like, you know, like everything's going well and stuff." And then she goes like, "Oh, I out of curiosity, how much money do you have right now?" And I was like, "What?" I was so confused, and I was in college. I was like, "I only have 1,500 in my bank account." And she was
I was
like,
like,
"That's it?" She was like, my friend was able to save 10,000." And I was like, "Yeah, like I work as a server, I'm a host, and I go to college and I pay for rent." Like to me, $1,500 in college was like a lot, right? Because I was like, I don't need to spend a
Yeah,
lot.
amazing money.
But to me, like, but to her, she was like, "That's it?" And I'm like, "Bitch, what do you expect?" Like, you know, and I hate when people ask that, because I was just like, why does that determine if you want to get to know me or not? You know?
yeah. So yeah.
And that's the personal finance thing. It's like, I told her, I was like, I have responsibilities I have to pay for, and if you're gonna be someone that I want to date, I'm not gonna date you. $1,500 as a college kid and with a girlfriend at that time, like, I would be in financial ruin.
But yeah, dating advice for everybody else. Do not ask your significant other how much they own, like on the first date.
No, and then my coworker told me, is like, yeah, how I met my husband was the first thing I asked. It was like, "Do you have any debt?" And like she's just going all this like check marks of like financial stuff, because yeah, financial burden can be another thing too. Like, you want to date someone or marry someone who's financially stable, right? Like their personal finance is in order, but to the point where it's just like it gets too much consuming of you and money, it corrupts your mindset, right? Like people
Very.
fear about like, oh, you don't have this much money, how can we survive, how can we this. Think of our parents back in the day that didn't have this type of money at all, didn't have this opportunity that we have right now, and they were still able to survive. Like the human mindset is so resilient, or like so persistent in survival, right? Money is not just something, yes, it helps a lot, but money is
Mhm.
not something like is the only survival tactic that you need in life as well. So for me, it's like if my parents can get through it even with worse circumstances, then who am I to complain about I can't do it, right? Like sometimes my day sucks at work, or I have a bad day, something else, but you look back and it's like it could be worse. And when we think about, okay, everything's rising up right now in prices as well, it's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years again. Inflation's going to happen every single time, right? I think right now, because we are grown up and we have our own personal finances and we get paid and we go to work,
Yeah.
we care more about it. Because think about when 2007 2008 happened, right? The financial crisis. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was playing Call of Duty. I was like, my parents were
Kind of
like
same.
probably stressed out. Yeah, like doing something. And they're stressed out about what's going on. And I'm here playing Call of Duty and not knowing what's happening around to me in the world, right? And inflation like will happen no matter what. Like think about your McDonald's burger. Like a double cheeseburger back in the day used to be $1. It used to be 20 cents, 15
I,
cents.
Victor
And
actually
now,
has the receipt of how much he
yeah.
paid for his meal.
Yeah, I remember my
Yeah.
hot and spicy chicken sandwich used to be $1, and now it keeps going up. Yu-Gi-Oh cards were $3.99, $2.99. Now it's $4.99, right? So no matter what in the world, inflation's always going to come up. So that's why it's a good thing to invest, because your money will be moving with the inflation.
Right.
This is my opinion, right, about it.
How you
But
invest it is something that like you have to do your own like research. Like it will be the hard and slow path, and it's something that like a lot of people don't want to do, but that's the unfortunate reality of all this. You have to
yeah,
like, if you also want to be risk adverse about it too, be more open.
yeah.
Because
And another thing is, oh, go on, Brian. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, it's really to just call back to what we said earlier. Like everything is going to have a risk factor. It's just a matter of like how much money are you willing to lose for you to actually make that bank, is the other thing that people don't really ask themselves about, or they should ask themselves more often.
And another thing about saving as well is like, I forgot where I heard this from, but it said the dollar today will be stronger than the dollar tomorrow, right? And it sounds like, well, that's kind of ludicrous. It's only tomorrow. But then you look at inflation, right? And so some of the products that you wanted to buy a couple months ago raised up in price. And so I have one friend who's always a stickler. He gives me shit for everything I buy. Like no matter what I buy, he was like, "Why the fuck are you buying this? Why are you doing that? Like you're gonna be poor." But that's his personality, right?
Yeah.
But then one day I told him I want to buy this. He was like, "Yeah, go ahead, buy it." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, go buy it. The economy is gonna be inflated, so that the price of what you want is gonna go up. So just buy it now, right?" So going back to it's like the whole timing thing too, right? It's like you should buy it now before the price increases later on. And no matter what, like I said, inflation's gonna happen, and then this is our first time really cognitively understanding it, and we're like, man, this sucks. But our parents had to deal with, hot and spices being increased for how many decades?
God,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now
I
we
remember
have
that
to
fondly so well.
yeah. So now we are experiencing what our parents are experiencing too, and then we work hard for our money, right? And then we see it getting taxed, seeing all this other stuff. It's like, if you don't want that happening to you, if you don't want the government taking your money, or your company taking your money, then find a way to mitigate that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with it. I'm the little bitch. I'll be like, okay, here, take my money. Go supply Ukraine with, more munitions and shit like that with my tax money.
Well,
But
we getting too political here, XD.
you said I could say whatever I want on this podcast.
I'm kidding. I'm
But,
kidding.
So either
but
way,
you know
it's
what?
still a truth. There's a
Yeah.
war.
But you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like if you really care about like penny pinching on your taxes or stuff like that, then do something about it. But for me, it's
Mhm.
like I don't have the time, I don't have the educational resources, for me to research everything on that. So that's my fault. I'm probably losing a lot of money that I could be saving, but that's the life that I chose, right? And it
Yeah.
depends on you on how much money do you want to accumulate per year as
Mhm.
well.
So, in that like sort, let's say I'll segue into this one too. How do you feel in this case, or how does everyone feel in this case? Like a lot of people would be saying too, like you can probably save more on your personal finances if you also cut away things that fuel your hobbies, whether it be like
I'd be
something that's
depressed.
costly expensive. Oh, yeah, savior.
Like camping stuff. Camping stuff is not cheap. Or
Mhm.
going to trips is not cheap, right? But for me, it's like time is also limited, and you cannot buy time. You can't buy your youth back, right? So
Right.
all these things that I would like to buy or go to, I have to think, okay, how much money do I want to invest right now in going to these trips, or how much I save and plan it out, right? Not like
Mm.
exorbitant amount, like so much luxurious, but I rather spend it right now when I have the least responsibilities. I don't have a family, I don't have a house. The only thing I
Mm.
have to pay is my rent and my car, right? So I would like to enjoy my youth as much as I can, because when you go hiking and you hear your bones popping, you're like, oh damn. Imagine when I'm 40 or 50, it's gonna get worse, and I'm sleepy and
Yeah.
I'm tired and stuff like that. So, you
Mm.
know, I don't believe that like you should stop uh spending money on the things that you love. But if you're in a serious scenario where you need to save money, let's say that you are living paycheck to paycheck and stuff like that, then that's the sacrifice you need to make. But
Yeah.
if you do have the money to go spend and have fun, do it in moderate, like a balance, right?
Mhm. Like in this case, I'm also like calling back to you. Like in this case, what were you like whenever you went like sneaker shopping when you had like all those Adidas?
So I think that was like freshman sophomore year. I got like out of like a long, well, that was my first real relationship breakup, right?
Mm.
And going back to the whole FOMO thing, right? Like I joined FSA, the Filipino Student Association, and I wanted to be, what you call it, like I wanted to be known
Right.
in a way, like so every month I would be like, oh, I'll buy new sneakers, I'll buy new sneakers. It give me temporary happiness, right? And then people would be like, oh damn, like cool kicks, cool this and that, because I wanted to fit in with the crowd. And
Mm.
then I realized after like my 20th pair, I'm like, I only have fucking one pair, like, of feet. I can't wear this every day. And then even if I wear it, it gets dirty. I worry about that. I can't enjoy it. And then I'll have space for it. And I guess when I was growing up, I realized I was like, why do I have to impress other people? Right? Like,
Mm.
I liked the thrill of waking up and trying to get a new sneaker, and that was exciting for me. But then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is not practical anymore, right?
Right.
Even with my old car, it was a coupe. It's not practical anymore. I had to drive back and forth, especially moving. I don't have space. It's not practical anymore. It's nice aesthetic, it's fun, but I guess growing up now, I realize there's more things in life than aesthetics. It's more about practicality, how it makes your life comfortable and easier.
Mm. Yeah, because like
So, mm,
yeah, because like whenever I hear like people that do talk about this, this is like going back to how personal finance like influencers are telling people how they should save money. Like either they turn their hobby into a business or they outright just don't like spend more money on your hobbies and just work harder. For me, I hate that advice so much, especially the one where it's like turn your hobbies into a business.
yeah,
Because
it won't be your
imagine,
hobby no more.
yeah, it won't be your hobby no more. And it's like the only reason why people have hobbies too is because, like what you said earlier, like that's what brings joy into their life. the moment that you decide to turn that shit into something that like, hey, I'm gonna try to see if I can make money off of this, that itself, it will outright burn you out, because you're using, in this case, your hobby as an excuse, excuse to yourself that you want to like keep working on it, and you're hoping that like your love and passion about your hobby will get you money. That if that's the goal you're going for me, I outright disagree. Just because like, imagine like all the people that do arts for commission too, like they're probably having the hardest time in luck right now, ever since like the whole like chat GPT like AI generation art too. And it's just like, for them, like I feel very bad for it too, because they're also the type of people that they probably do love drawing a lot too, but it's like, it's hard to really tell too if their love for drawing is because of the fact that they did it as a hobby and then converted to a business, or they truly like the art and they want to be appreciated about it. Like, does that make sense how I said it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say with that too, it's like with your hobby, it's escape from like the mundane life, right?
Mhm.
Like you have this time period where like you don't have to, you escape from the daily routine of what you want to do, and it's kind of something, it's like that balance of like, okay, I have my fun, but you know, hobbies, like it depends on what hobbies you want to and how you're gonna sustain that hobby,
Mhm.
right? And like going back, like I hear like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like trading cards used to be cheap back in the day. Now it's like so expensive just to compete with people. You have to build like a $400-$500 deck, and I'm like, oh my god! Like back in the day, like I used to buy like one deck, and I'm like, my monster beats your monster. The end. For 20
Yeah.
bucks or less.
Yeah,
But now it's just ridiculous to me.
That is
Yeah.
true.
yeah, because there are things too that like a little bit off topic with TCG stuff that we're going to dive into. It's because of the fact that there are people that like have like winning like tournament builds and meta builds that people are like trying to copy, and that like supply and demand too will increase the prices of certain cards. So people that like pull card packs, and they're like, oh shit, I got the most valuable card at the moment too, and probably the same day afterwards, I think it was Bandai or Koei Tecmo. I forgot the people that are running Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I'm starting to forget names. Oops.
That's Koei.
Konami?
Koei.
Konami, bro. Koei
Konami.
Tecmo is the fucking Dynasty Warriors series.
Yeah,
Oh.
actually.
Ah, shit.
actually-
Anyways, Konami could outright just say, oh no, if anything, because this is like the most sought after card, we're just gonna like either whitelist it or limited the numbers of cards you can have in your deck, or just outright ban it. Like it's no longer tournament legal. And because of that too, it will actually just drop the valuation of that card like instantly. And it's just like, well, shit. Probably it's probably still worth something to people, but right now it's like, that's also something that, again, how I understand how you feel about it too. And this will be where my tangent will stop here from TCG stuff.
Okay.
But
well, I have a question to ask you, right? So, what is personal finance meaning to you then?
for me though, like with the personal finances, I just wanted to at least be comfortable with like how much money I have saved up where I can take care of myself with it. I have enough money where if I make any big financial decisions, maybe I don't have enough money saved up to, but if I work harder, I know I can at least achieve it within, I'll say, roughly between 2 or 3 months.
Damn.
Very, very good.
Yeah. At least that's how I feel about it too. Now, in this case, if it comes to like buying a house, that will take a lot more time that I need to figure out. But when it comes to like any bigger financial decisions too, let's say like I want to take like a vacation trip all the way out to, let's say, Alaska, for example, I would look at it too. I would think about like some type of budgeting too, because, you know, the one time I went out to vacation to like Seattle, I actually went over budget when I went there. But I was also because like I was just trying to have fun over there. And then I put into perspective, okay, maybe I need to allocate a little bit more money before I fly out.
Yeah, don't bite more than you can chew.
Yeah. So doing that too. That's how I kind of treat personal finance. But at the same time, like I know I should be worried about a lot of these things too. But the moment that I do worry about shit like that too, it will start to make me do like really terrible decisions just because I'm not at a right state of mind to like think calmly about it. Because obviously, yeah, shit is bad. But at the same time, as long as like I feel like as long as everyone is like cool, level headed about like what's they can do right now, everything will still sort of work itself out. At least that's what I believe.
What a very good, mature answer, Brian.
Hell yeah. And that took me as long as like, I don't know, 18 years of fucking up.
At least you like 18 years, right? So it's
Yeah.
just like it's better than you learn 18 than you're fucking 30 or 40.
Mm.
You know, when you don't
Mhm.
have that time to make a mistake again. And then another thing is, young people, like, please don't get credit cards that
Or
you know the enough income that you have, and then don't get credit cards that
Yeah.
have this annual fee that you're like, oh shit, this annual fee will take a chunk on my paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you have a bonus offer and you can't spend $3,000 to $4,000 within those 2 months to achieve those bonus offers, you played yourself.
Yeah. Or or if you're actually like doing like I don't know if this would be considered mega scummy too, but it's like if you're going the other way around, like you can then find credit cards that will do like 0% interest within like first year. And as long as you're able to pay off like the credit card, you could actually close that and open another one. Is that what your dad did, Victor?
He's still doing it.
Oh, okay. Shit.
Yeah, I think another thing is for personal finance we didn't talk about earlier is credit,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like no one understand, like I don't think people understand that credit is so important to achieve a lot of things in this country. There's some statistic I don't know on top of my head, but they're like, you know, X amount of statistics people don't even have a bank account. And I'm like, oh my god,
Jeez.
how do people, you know, want to finance a car or finance a house and stuff like that? And when you're young, like this is the perfect time. Even if you fuck up your credit, you still have so much time to build up the credit. But regardless, the bank will, that's the number one thing. Like people are like, why do banks have like a credit system, this and that? Because it's like, because they need to trust you on making the payments on time. And if you can't do that, then why would they lend you the money?
Yeah. And also the credit
So-
score thing was probably a result of the 2008 recession.
Oh,
just
really?
because, yeah, based on
Wait,
what
what?
I remember too, like the credit score, did it exist before the 2008 crisis or after, or did it start becoming more important after 2008?
I have no idea.
Probably more important. I'm sure it was there for
Hmm.
some time now.
Right. Yeah, because like because of like the credit score really is, it's mostly to protect like loaners in a way too. Because a lot of times if you don't have a good credit score, a lot of these places or banks do, they won't give you money if you don't have a good credit score, because obviously that means you have a hard time paying back your money. So to them it's just like, how do we know that if we give you this you're also going to pay us back?
It's just a big risk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they did that. That's the housing crisis.
Yes.
So, other points aside too, yeah, credit is something that's really important too. And it's like, I think my personal thing that I always like was told to like only use your credit card if you know the fact that you know you could pay it off. Which is sort of
I
less
only
like,
ever use it for gas. Easy.
hey,
I think
depending
some
on
other-
which
I think
credit
some
card.
other people's
Mhm.
other people's advice is treat your credit card like a debit card. So just spend as much as you can pay it.
Yeah. Although sometimes people do have bad habits of like, fuck it, here you go, just start spending it. Which, if anything, I think here's something that I've noticed too is like, do you think it's like a lot more people are more willing to just spend on shit just because it's on a credit card versus if they actually start paying stuff in cash?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
most definitely.
the credit card is free money, right? So like these credit card companies would prey on students and be like, hey, I know you don't got money right now, but here's a credit card for $3,000 in credit, right? Go out there and spend, on your nice stuff. Go to the bars with your friends and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then it all racks up, and they're like, "Oh shit, I can't pay back this $3,000." What happens? You get charged with a fee,
Yeah.
and then that's how they make their money. And so, yeah, it's just you have to be like what Victor said, like treat it as a debit card,
Mhm.
and you gotta know how much you're making to sustain it, like afford it.
Mhm. Now, do you think it's also harder now where a lot of your purchases can now be done online? Like it's a lot harder for people to like control their spending just because everything is now online now. Now you can purchase a lot of
But-
things online.
But let me ask, whose fault is that?
True.
It is my fault. Like with FIFA points, oh my god, I used to be a fiend with that, and like it was so easy, like at a touch of a button, like boom, I just spent this $20 today,
So-
$20
Mhm.
tomorrow, $20 another day, and stuff like that. And then you look at your statement and you're like, oh my god, I accidentally cracked up like $400 of FIFA
Mhm.
points within a month. Not saying I did that, but you know what I mean? It's like,
he stopped for
yeah,
everybody.
it was 300 actually. No,
Oh,
but you know what I
shit.
mean?
Yeah.
It's so simple nowadays to be like, oh, select a cart, add to cart, boom, and you bought it.
Mhm.
And then
True,
Yeah.
true.
you wait that anticipation, and you're like, oh, finally I get it.
Mhm.
And then you get it, and then you're like, that was cool. 2 weeks later, I want something else,
Mhm.
right? And it's just a never-ending cycle and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's a lot of discipline on what you have, of what money you have as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, like sometimes I'd look back and I'll be like, I'll make like a checklist, right? I was like, was that an impulse buy or was that actually needed? So nowadays when I make a purchase, I'm like, is this an investment for X, Y, and Z?
Or is it something that I want to do as part of my hobby? Something like that too. But I think there's also something else that I found someone that did this as like a very interesting like mental like experiment on yourself. Some of the things that someone did is that like they bought like a pile of like fake money, like $20 bill fake money. And what he did is that on the side, whenever he makes any online purchases, he counts out like how much of that cost from the pile, and then he tears it up.
Mm,
Sort of
kinda
less like
extreme, no?
it's kind of extreme, but it's like in some ways it because of the way how it is too, like the only reason why I would say to do that it's a lot harder for people to like control their spending habits whenever it's made purchases online is because you don't get to interact with like your actual money being at this point like taken away from your account.
Yeah,
In this case.
true.
Yeah, in this case, like before, like everybody else was using debit card. Us as kids, we just throw down like the cash. Like we knew like how much we were gonna spend because that was all that was given to us, and we would just slap down the cash, and we knew like how to spend that.
I think also as well, when we were young, this is my, I guess, personal case,
Mhm.
or hearing other people too, is like when we were given a credit card, we thought it was a debit card. Right? And so we swipe, buy until it gets maxed out. We're like, what does maxing out mean?
Yeah.
And we had to learn that the hard way. Not saying that that happened, right? But I know someone that they told me it's like when they first got their credit card, their mom's credit card, the first thing they
Mhm.
did was buy a bunch of video games and they maxed out the credit card without
Yeah.
knowing the implications of what a credit card is actually, what it actually do.
Yeah.
So to them, it's probably like an unlimited like money pool, a blank check of a debit card.
Yeah. So at least for my experience with it too, I never actually got a credit card until like I was 22 or 23. I remember too, like I never had like a credit card like when I first turned 18. And even
Yeah,
then too,
yeah,
like I was
proof.
doing my best to like try my best to like not spend too much as well. Sometimes I would be very terrible at it and whatnot, but hey, it happens. I learned from it. But yeah, I never really got to like owning credit cards too because I always like was more fearful of the fact too that like I obviously did not make enough to the point where I would be able to like manage like credit card payments. That was at least my reasoning behind why I never got it that early.
Mhm.
And
Responsible.
it's like it's something what responsible, but I feel like this is something that like it will happen to all of us. Like I feel like in this case, damn, if I had my credit card a little bit early on too, I would be able to build up my credit history, which is actually more important than your credit score. But regardless too,
those tie together.
yeah, they tie
Those
together.
go together.
Yeah, but if anything, the best way how banks will just tell you in this case, they will look at your credit history. Your credit score will just be more or less controlled by your history overall.
Yeah.
So some of the things that I was told that like I should have done this earlier, but I'm like, I would not have known. I did not actually have a good paying job by then, and it would actually ruin me if I actually got a credit card. And they was like, just don't use it that much. I mean, true, but why the fuck did I get a credit card then? It's like one of those things too. Like I justify it as like, if I wasn't ever going to use it, I should not buy it kind of deal. But if anything, things do sort of change now too, because I have a decent paying job. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm actually saving a lot more money, which right now things will change every now and then too, because I have my own family that wants to retire soon. I'm going to help out some payments too. So I have some money saved aside to help them out for that. And la-di-da-di-da.
Nice of you.
Yeah. So getting back on this too, I feel like with like the mental experiment of like having like a pile of like fake cash to it, and just like how whatever you do any online purchase, you just take that from your cash pile and just tear it up in front of you. And it's like very interesting way of how that person is like, that's how he controls his online spending. I
So,
was just
Brian,
like,
oh,
oh
continue,
no,
sorry.
go for it. No, I actually want to hear you. Go for it.
Okay, I was gonna say, for the people who are not financially educated, what would your advice be to them?
I think you said it best too. I think it's something that like you have to figure out like what are in this case your financial goals? Is it to be rich, to make sure that you can live life comfortably, or is it something that you at this point you do your best to try to live the best life? Which I feel like in most cases people just want to be able to live comfortably. I think that's pretty common, at least for all of us.
Okay. What about you, Victor, Michael, and Lloyd? Like, what would your advice be for people in this situation? Let's say if they have nothing, you know, they're starting from the ground up and they're trying to build themselves.
They spend money, learn how to spend money wisely, learn how to take advantage of all the financial instruments out there. I mean, the easiest one to take advantage of right now is credit cards.
And a
You know, you gotta-
calculator.
But yeah, I mean, credit card, it's a very good tool as long as you use it right. You know, every tool is useful as long as you use it right. If you use it wrong, then it's going to harm you. It's going to do more harm than good.
And that's how I lost a finger. I'm
The-
kidding. I know I didn't.
The credit card is the easiest way to start building up your credit at a young age. So as long
I
as
mean,
you
that's
use
what-
it right.
That's what I did
Yeah.
essentially. I just bought gas ever since I had it, and I've had it for probably 6 or so years now, and I've just been building up the credit score on it. And I get gas probably every month. It's not very hard to pay off. Just got to start small. Got to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just build slowly. No need to rush things. We have a
Mhm.
lot of time on this earth, so you don't need to get rich fast. You can just slowly build the foundation, build some good habits. Don't spend too much. Only spend what you can pay, pretty much. And if you're not ready for a credit card, then don't get it. But if you're ready, you know you can pay it off, then go for it to start building your credit and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
for my advice is, please do not borrow money from your friends, or ask money to borrow money from your friends.
Oh my
we're not
God.
we're not dropping names here, but if you're listening to this, you know who you are.
Whoa, whoa! I'm not
kidding, I'm
saying.
kidding.
I'm just saying. I'm just
I'm
saying in
kidding.
general.
There's like
I'm
multiple
just saying-
people that we know. Okay.
Oh my god,
so-
no! I'm just saying in general, that's the last option you should do. You know, you shouldn't take your friends for granted.
Mhm.
and thinking their kindness of their money, right? People have bills to pay, people have their own financial obligations they have to deal with, right? So please be courteous to that. That is my advice. All right, not dropping any names, and that's just my general
Yeah.
advice to people. It's like, please, like, be cognizant of lending your friends money or
Mm.
anybody money at all. Like, money corrupts people, and um, yeah, just don't do it.
Yeah,
You'll
money
save
is
a lot of
essentially,
headaches.
yeah, I would say money is just an amplifier of who you already are. That's all like kind of the way how I kind of see money too, is like as much as like it does corrupt people, I feel like in a way too, it kind of just amplifies like whoever they truly are.
Yeah, money does not corrupt. It just shows your true self.
The love of money, bro.
Yeah.
This is a dangerous thing.
Well, that's because they were already corrupt to begin with. It's
Yeah.
not that. It's not that money corrupted them. It's how they are.
Yeah. But if anything, I'm trying my best to make this video as ad friendly as possible. So please give me that ad money, YouTube.
I knew this
But-
boy was greedy. Cancel him.
Man, can you blame me? How the hell else am I gonna fund this stream? And eventually I'm gonna do like a full on like video studio.
Canceled.
Man, I did at some point want to like build out like a podcast studio with like all types of microphones being laid out to probably the cheaper variant so that it's easier on cost overhead.
Well, Brian,
Oh,
has a goal
Brian.
now.
Yeah,
No,
that's
yeah.
a goal. Like, what I said, it's like,
Mm.
don't ask like, how do I get, like, how
Yeah.
do I get it?
Ask how. Yeah, ask
Wouldn't
how.
it?
Yeah.
Ask how.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see.
How are you gonna do it, Mr. Bowie?
I'll ask myself that again in like 5 more months. I'll ask myself that again until 5 months. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot going on in each of our lives too. That at some point too, like it feels like saving money is like it is going to be hard no matter what you do, but it's one of those things too that like you kind of have to like accept that it's just going to be hard. But it's also it doesn't need to be that hard either. If that makes sense.
No.
Oh well.
No,
Well-
no, Mr. Bowie.
Well shit, I guess I lost everyone there. Whoopsies. But yeah,
Hard
I
is
feel
hard.
like, but yeah, out of all this too, I think the biggest takeaway for like people's personal finance is just like set your goals realistic to what you care about in life. Because I think that's if you can work towards like what you want to do in life too, and not work towards like what people are doing in their lives versus like what people should do, tell you what you should do with your life. Just do what makes you happy. Whether it means that you buy all the Gunpla models in the world or you decided to spend all that money to buy a fursuit, I'm not judging.
Hey, yo, don't buy a furry suit. That's financial suicide.
Look, man, look. There's like a
Don't
lot of
be
things
a
to
furry. It's financial suicide.
look, man. If those people are willing to drop $1,000 for those, I looked it up. I will say kudos to you. I don't know how you finance it, but yeah, we're gonna leave off of that.
Yeah.
Any closing statements, everyone?
Just don't borrow money from
Spend
your
your-
friends.
Spend your money wisely.
Yeah. Spend money wisely. Don't be stupid. And also, please invest in my NFT that will be dropping soon. No, I'm not making one.
Time to cancel.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
Cancel.
Well, this was fun, Brian. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Oh, no problem. I'll probably
Thank you for
have
coming
more-
on.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
we'll-
being here.
Yeah, I will eventually want to have more people like at this point, like more of our own friends group to come in and like we do a lot of fun topics too. This one's a little bit more personal just because me and Victor and also Michael too and Loy, we kind of talk about like some of the shit that we buy too and how like everyone else's financial spending either doesn't make sense or it's just like, man, why the fuck are they trying hard? But
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, that'll be it for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. And man, this is a lot longer than I thought it would be, but this is good still. Anyways,
Yeah,
good night,
it was
y'all.
fun. Night.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right, everyone.